on Facebook Live. This is my first time to have Facebook Live here in my office at South Texas College. And I'm taking this opportunity to do a segment on cancer because it is very devastating to think that there are more and more people who are suffering from cancer and those who have succumbed to cancer. And it pains me a lot to think that even my own loved ones, my own friends, have succumbed to cancer. And even now, I have some relatives who have been calling me, consulting with me about how they can do away with cancer. And it runs in my own family, including cardiovascular disease, diabetes. So I cannot just close my eyes rather than to give some advice according to what I have learned from my studies. So I just to briefly introduce myself. I'm Dr. Edwin Tamayo. I have a PhD in medical genetics and nutritional biochemistry. So with this academic background that I have, I am basically compelled to share what I have learned and working with a number of my clients. I would say that it is my duty to give some information that you may use in order to prevent cancer or at least to reverse the progression of cancer when you have it already. So in this segment, I entitled this live stream as Counterattacks to Cancer Attacks. Are we just able to counterattack cancer? Is it possible that you and me could have cancer, could develop cancer? Yes, in most cases, without warning, people may get cancer. It could strike you, and it could strike me, it could strike anyone else. And there have been about 200 different types of cancers that have threatened the lives of almost 2 million new cancer cases. And here in the US alone, we have more than 500,000 cancer deaths each year. So it is very saddening. It is very devastating. Others would say, am I vulnerable to develop cancer? Yes, in terms of our vulnerability, at times when our immune system is very low, that's the time when different disorders or different disease-causing agents could attack us, including those factors that would cause cancer. So we call these factors that causes cancer as carcinogens. And where do we get these carcinogens? Primarily, we get these carcinogens through food. There are other ways, of course, environmental exposure to carcinogens. But in most cases that I have seen, carcinogens could take a toll on us through food, through the food that we enjoy. So what then are these in the food, which we call carcinogens? First, we have high saturated fats in red meats. We also have what we call heme in red meats and other meats, meat products. and these are potent carcinogens. And if we grill the meat, we are actually increasing the potency of the meat and meat products to induce initiation of cancer development. What else? We have in processed foods some food additives, preservatives that are potent carcinogens. What about refined sugars? Refined sugars are not carcinogens per se, but if we ingest them, especially at high amounts, they could dampen our immune system, which means that these sugars, in such case, they have found out that high sugar, especially refined sugars in the bloodstream, could literally kill the white blood cells. And we know that the white blood cells are the soldiers of the body that would defend us from any disease-causing agent. So if sugars will dampen our immune system, this could be one direct or indirect agent for developing cancer and other diseases. So if the body's defense mechanism is dumped off, of course, our susceptibility to developing cancer and other diseases would be very high. And in fact, in many cases, this susceptibility could increase up to 50%. Moreover, there are a wide range of factors that is stripped off our body's defense mechanism that could initiate cancer development. These include lack of sleep, or it could be very small amount of sleep during the night. There are those who go to work or extend their work hours just for them to finish what they need to finish at work, and that would give them a shorter time to sleep well. What about stress? Stress factors could dampen our immune system, because here, stress can increase the release of cortisol level. And you see, cortisol is a hormone in the body that would tend to have the body increase its sugar level or glucose level in the bloodstream. And if this is so, then the immune system would be dumped off. What about vitamin and mineral deficiencies? In such case, this could also dampen our immune system, especially if we lack vitamins A, C, and E, including vitamin D, which we call as antioxidant vitamins. If we lack or if we are deficient of any of these vitamins, then our susceptibility to disease is markedly increased. And this may also include then, in connection to this, malnutrition, undernutrition, sedentary lifestyle, and then lack of exposure to sunlight, and many more. Now, others say that we all have the possibility to develop cancer at any time, whether we like it or not, because others would understand that they have cancer genes. All of us have what we call proto-oncogenes. And thus, others may then say that we all have susceptibility to developing cancer, which could be right. But the truth is, each of us possess these genes that would control and regulate how cells multiply, grow, and develop, which means that there are genes that would regulate the multiplication of the cells. You see, just to give you a brief background, that if you have cancer, that means that there is an uncontrolled multiplication of the cells. So cancer cells are perpetual, which means that they could grow and grow, they could multiply and multiply without control. But then, for normal cells, they have a way of regulation. So there is what we call gene regulatory mechanism, so that these cells will have some regulatory way of whether to multiply or not. When carcinogens then would destroy the regulatory mechanism, the initiation of cancer development would then occur, and thus it would result in uncontrolled cell multiplication, typical of abnormal and uncontrollable growth and multiplication of cancer cells. In contrast to normal cells, which are endowed with this well-programmed and regulated lifespan, cancer cells do not normally die, but they keep multiplying and later invade the neighboring cells, the tissues and organs of the body. So we call this as metastasis. And in some cases, in advanced stage, cancer cells can go farther via the lymphatic and the blood systems when the immune cells are overwhelmed and could no longer exterminate those cancer cells. Moreover, your risk of developing cancer increases when you have been exposed constantly to cigarette smoke. You see, cigarette also has potent carcinogens. When you are exposed to radiation, when you are exposed to pesticides, insecticides, and other environmental pollutants. So these are contributing factors. These are potent carcinogens that could initiate cancer development. In some others, such as leachates from food packaging materials made of plastics, styrofoam, and aluminum, may likewise be potent carcinogens. And also viruses, bacteria, and fungi, there are a number of them which are carcinogens themselves. So we call this as biological carcinogens. So what then are we able to do? What can we do in order to fight against cancer? You see, I mentioned about the ACE vitamins, including vitamin D, most of which could be taken from plant foods. So then plant foods would provide phytochemicals, they provide fibers, they provide these ACE vitamins, which are the antioxidant vitamins, so that we are protected from any of these carcinogens that we mentioned. And they could protect us generally from disease-causing agents. So then, if we eat the foods, especially in their natural whole forms, they could provide these vitamins, minerals, they could provide these phytochemicals in order for us to fight against any of these carcinogens. So, if you insist eating red meat, if you insist on eating high-fat, grilled, processed meats, and processed foods that have food additives and preservatives, if you insist on being exposed to any of these carcinogens, then, of course, you may likely develop cancer. So then what can we do? First is for us to evaluate our food preferences, and if we need to change our eating habits, we need to change our eating habits. If we need to improve our lifestyle, if we need to improve our sleeping habits, our exercise, then we need to do. It is important that we brace ourselves from any attack of carcinogens, attack of disease-causing organisms, and other agents. Now, going back to food, we have to prefer to eat more whole plant foods. And then we need to sleep well for at least 7 hours of undisrupted sleep each night. And in terms of our exercise, we need to be physically active, have physical exercises regularly for about 45 minutes each day. And then, of course, we need to enjoy life. Even if there are a lot of stresses along the way, we just need to enjoy life. Whatever life brings, we just need to enjoy life. And if there are stresses, we must learn how to manage our stress. And I put here in my list, genuinely serving others, because that gives us a sense of fulfillment. You know, if you have a sense of fulfillment, you have these dopamine, endorphins that would help us restore the body, and that will also help us fight against disease-causing microorganisms and agents. And then finally, in my list, I have your full trust in divine providence, that we know that He is in control. He is, in fact, in full control of our lives. So then, we should not give cancer a chance to ruin our life and our future. So I hope this live stream video will help you understand how we should be able to prevent cancer, and at the same time, how we should improve our lives in order for us to avoid any of these carcinogens, avoid any of these agents that could ruin our health and our strength. And we will continue on with the next episode, probably next week, as we return to this live stream video. God bless you, and may we live healthy as ever.